7 o'clock Monday morning. Bennett Hayes stands barefoot in his kitchen, the phone pressed flat against his ear. Behind him, 7-year-old Owen drags a spoon through a bowl of cold cereal, humming something with no tune. The voice on the line takes 11 words to end 11 years. "Don't come in. Your keycard has been deactivated." He does not turn around. He keeps his face still, the way a man keeps a glass from spilling. Owen swings small legs under the chair, unaware. On the other side of the city, 32 floors above the street, Adrienne Voss closes a folder on her desk and looks out across the skyline. The youngest name ever stenciled on the door of Vantage Supply. Calm hands, a small private smile. She believes she has just closed a door. She does not know yet that the room behind it was never empty. The call ends with a click, so quiet Bennett barely hears it. He sets the phone face down on the counter and turns toward the stove where a kettle has just started to whistle. He lifts it off the burner before the sound can grow. "You okay, Dad?" Owen has stopped eating. The spoon hovers over the bowl. "I'm fine, buddy." Bennett pours hot water into a mug that has no tea bag in it. He notices the mistake only after he sets the kettle down. "Working from home today, that's all." Owen accepts this the way 7-year-olds accept most things their fathers tell them, with a small, careful nod, then a return to the cereal. Bennett stands at the counter and watches his son eat. 11 years inside the same building. 11 years of arriving at 6 and leaving after 7. 11 years of believing that if a man kept his head down and let his work speak, the work would eventually be heard. He had finished the report on Friday. 35 pages. Clean numbers, federal infrastructure data. A corridor the entire Midwest was overlooking the Northwest, where new rail and a new federal highway were going to braid together inside 3 to 5 years. He had submitted it to his direct supervisor at 4:11 on Friday afternoon. He had gone home and ordered pizza for Owen, and felt for the first time in months something close to satisfaction. He did not yet know that the report had crossed a desk 32 floors above his own. By Wednesday, the rejections begin. Polite emails. A few arrive within 22 minutes of submission, which is faster than any human being can read a resume. By Friday, 7 companies have closed doors that had previously been open. Bennett has shaken hands with people at 4 of them. He has bought drinks for 2. A text comes in around 9 that night from a mid-level operations manager at a competing firm, a man Bennett had shared a panel with at a logistics conference 2 summers earlier. "I don't know what you did to her, but you should stop applying in the Midwest for a while. Just sit out a season." Bennett reads it twice and does not reply. He sets the phone on the kitchen counter and looks at it as though the message might rearrange itself into something he can answer. He knows who her is. He has only seen Adrienne Voss in person twice, once at an all-hands gathering in the lobby, once across a glass conference room when she walked past with her chief of staff. She had not looked at him either time. He had not expected her to. She has now made certain that no one else will either. It is a Tuesday almost 2 weeks later when Bennett stops searching for a way back in and starts searching for a way around. Owen has been asleep for an hour. The house is quiet except for the refrigerator and the soft occasional sound of a settling beam. Bennett opens his laptop at the kitchen table and pulls up the Federal Infrastructure Planning portal. The portal is public. It does not care that Vantage Supply has decided he no longer exists. He scrolls past the southeast corridor, the one Adrienne Voss had built her appointment around, and goes to the northwest. He has looked at this map 100 times. Tonight, he looks at it differently. Not as an analyst preparing a recommendation for a company. As a man with 5 months of savings and a son who needs breakfast in the morning. He cross-references commercial property listings against the projected rail and highway lines. Most of what surfaces has already been bought, optioned, or priced beyond reason. Then he sees it. Keller Freight Yard. 5.1 acres outside Spokane, Washington. Rail spurs intact. Electrical grid old, but standing. On the market 4 years. 5 price reductions. No buyers. He overlays the federal corridor projections on top of the parcel map. The new rail will pass within 300 yards of the western fence. The new highway interchange, funded, scheduled, approved, will sit roughly 1 mile east. In 3 to 5 years, this empty, half-forgotten yard on the outskirts of Spokane will be a junction point on one of the most important freight corridors in the country. Bennett stares at the screen until the numbers stop being numbers and start being a decision. He does not sleep that night. He sits at the table with a yellow legal pad and writes columns. Savings, equity, estimated rehab, estimated runway. The numbers do not work the first time he runs them. They do not work the second time. The third time, by some grace of arithmetic and necessity, they work just barely if he is willing to give up almost everything he and Owen currently have. The house is the largest line on the page. $240,000 in equity paid down over 8 years of marriage, and the 4 years since the marriage ended. Owen was born in the upstairs bedroom on the south side. His handprints in green poster paint are still visible on the inside of the garage door, where he had been allowed to play during a thunderstorm at the age of 4. Bennett looks at the number for a long time. In the morning, he sits across from Owen at breakfast and waits for the boy to finish his first triangle of toast. "I've been thinking," he says. "I think we're going to move." Owen sets down the toast. "To a smaller place, for a while." Owen considers this with the same patient seriousness he brings to a difficult page of a chapter book. "Will there be a yard? There'll be room to run." Owen weighs the answer, finds it acceptable, and picks up the toast again. Okay, that is the whole negotiation. Bennett sits with his coffee and looks at his son and feels for the first time since Monday morning that he is not entirely outmatched. A boy who answers the question of his whole life in 2 words has given his father something Adrienne Voss cannot take with a phone call. The house goes on the market that Friday. It sells in 9 days to a couple expecting their second child who walk through the kitchen and admire the morning light. Bennett does not tell them about the handprints inside the garage door. He thinks about it and chooses not to. The wire for Keller Freight Yard clears on a Thursday afternoon. Bennett signs the closing papers in a strip mall office in Spokane, with Owen seated next to him, drawing a truck on the back of an unused form. The seller is an older man who had inherited the yard from his father and tried for 4 years to be rid of it. He shakes Bennett's hand and asks with no particular tone whether Bennett knows what he is doing. "Not entirely," Bennett says. The older man grunts in something close to approval and slides the keys across the desk. The apartment Bennett rents is 15 minutes from the yard. 2 bedrooms, a small balcony, a parking lot view. He moves what is left of their furniture in a single rented truck, with Owen riding in the cab beside him, holding a shoebox of action figures on his lap, as though they are eggs. When they pull up to the building, Owen looks at the door, then at his father, and asks the question Bennett has been waiting for. "Is this the new house?" For a while, Owen carries the shoebox in himself. He walks past the empty living room without complaint, past the kitchen with its rented appliances, and stops in front of the smaller of the 2 bedrooms. "Mine." "Yours." He sets the shoebox down in the middle of the floor, the way a small king might mark territory, and turns back to his father. "Okay." Bennett sits down on the top step of the balcony threshold and lets himself exhale for the first time in many weeks. Below him, the parking lot holds 2 cars and a green dumpster. Above him, an early evening sky is going pink at the edges. Somewhere, 2,000 miles east in a corner office on the 32nd floor, a woman who has already forgotten his name is signing off on the next quarter's strategic plan for a corridor she does not yet know is the wrong one. He stays on the step until Owen calls him for help opening a box. Then he stands up, brushes his hands on his jeans, and goes inside to be a father in a smaller room than the one he started the year in. The yard is waiting. The work has not yet begun. The numbers, the rail, the federal projections, all of it is still only ink on a screen. But the keys are in his pocket, and for the first time since 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, Bennett Hayes is the one holding them. The work begins on a Monday because Bennett wants the first day of the rest of his life to start on the same kind of morning that ended the last one. The crew arrives at 6:30. 6 men, 3 trucks, and a clipboard that has seen better decades. Their foreman is a welder named Ray, 54 years old. With hands that look like they were carved out of the same iron, he bends for a living. He walks the property once with Bennett, says almost nothing, and at the end of the loop turns and asks, "You want this done right or done fast?" "Right." "Then it's gonna take longer than you think." "I know." Ray gives a single short nod, the kind a man offers, when he has decided on the basis of very little that he is going to stay. The first month is electrical. The second is concrete. The third is a string of small disasters that no spreadsheet ever predicted. A drainage line collapses under the weight of a delivery truck. A subcontractor disappears with a deposit and resurfaces 2 weeks later with apologies and half the work done. A windstorm peels back a section of roof on the eastern warehouse and rains down on a stack of newly delivered insulation. Bennett does not raise his voice. He writes everything in a black notebook in small, clear handwriting, and at the end of every day, he closes the notebook and drives back to the apartment and reads to Owen for 20 minutes before bed. To keep cash flowing while the bill drags on, he lists 2 of the smaller bays for short-term storage rental. A regional produce hauler takes one, a metal fabricator takes the other. The contracts are month to month. The income is modest. It is for now the only money coming through the gate. By the 4th month, the electrical contractor pulls Bennett aside in the gravel lot at 6 in the morning. The man is holding a folded sheet of paper that Bennett has come to recognize as the universal shape of bad news. "The old grid won't take what we're putting in. We need to redo the main service. I can't eat the cost." The number on the page is $47,000. Bennett studies it carefully, the way someone reads a hand of cards already half played. He has no office to take this conversation into. They are standing next to a portable toilet and a stack of rebar. "What if I pay the whole thing in 14 days instead of net 60? "Then I can talk to my supplier." "What does that get us?" 31, maybe 30. 31. 31. They shake on it next to the rebar. Bennett walks back to his trailer office, sits down at a card table that serves as his desk, and writes the new figure in the black notebook. He keeps his hand steady because his hand has not been allowed to shake since Monday morning a long time ago. The 9th month brings a fever. It is a Wednesday night. Bennett has just gotten home, smelling of diesel and concrete dust, when Owen looks up from the couch with eyes too bright and a forehead too warm. The thermometer reads 102.4. By midnight, it is 103. Bennett sits on the edge of the small bed with a damp washcloth and a bowl of cool water, and lays the cloth across his son's forehead, then his neck, then his wrists, the way his mother used to do when he was small. His phone is on the bed next to him. A steel supplier in Boise has been waiting 48 hours for confirmation on a load that if it slips, will set the dock work back another 3 weeks. Bennett types with his right thumb, while his left hand keeps the cloth in place. He composes the email, twice deletes it once, and sends the final version at 4:23 in the morning. By then, the fever has broken. Owen is sleeping with his mouth slightly open the way he did as a baby. Bennett slides off the bed and onto the floor, his back against the wall, and closes his eyes for what he intends to be a moment. He wakes up 40 minutes later with a stiff neck and the gray light of a Spokane dawn coming through the blinds. He gets up. He showers. He drives to the yard. By the 13th month, the account that holds the construction money has $11,000 left in it. The number is small enough to write on a sticky note. Bennett does not write it down. He calls the bank to extend a line of credit and is told in the polite voice that banks reserve for people they have already decided about that an extension is not possible at this time. He thanks the woman on the phone, hangs up, and sits in the trailer with the lights off for a full minute before he opens his wallet and pulls out the personal credit card he has not used since the divorce. That Friday, 6 men received their full week's pay on time. Ray comes into the trailer that evening with 2 paper cups of black coffee from the gas station down the road. He sets one on the card table. "You look worse than the floor." "Floor's coming along." "Floor's coming along because we know what we're doing. You don't have to watch us do it. Go sleep somewhere with a door." Bennett picks up the coffee. It is bad coffee. It is the best thing he has tasted in a week. "Thanks, Ray. Don't thank me, just don't fall over." Ray walks out without waiting for a reply, which is how Ray ends most conversations. That night, Bennett eats a sandwich of bread and cheese on a folding chair in the trailer and looks out at the yard. The new lights have come on along the eastern fence. The new rail spurs have been straightened and rebedded. The old wooden loading dock has been replaced with poured concrete. He has spent nearly 2 years and almost every dollar he has ever earned to make a piece of forgotten ground look like a working freight hub. The hub is real. The major customers are not yet there. The thing he is waiting for has not yet arrived. Then in the 16th month, it arrives. He hears about it through a phone he is not paying full attention to. He is standing in the back lot checking a section of drainage that has been giving him trouble when a notification surfaces on the industry news app he keeps installed, mostly out of habit. Vantage Supply Company announces strategic pivot to Northwest Corridor expansion. He reads the headline. He reads the subhead. He reads the first paragraph. He does not smile. He does not say anything. He continues walking the drainage line to the back fence, and only when he reaches the fence does he stop and look up at the sky for a long moment. The look of a man making sure he is still inside his own life. 2,000 miles east in the corner office on the 32nd floor, the announcement has not been a victory. It has been a forced retreat. The numbers on the Northwest Corridor have grown too clean, the federal timeline too public for any chief executive to keep pretending the Southeast bet was the right one. Adrian Voss had read the first summary of those numbers 14 months earlier, a 2-page brief lifted from a 35-page report by a mid-level analyst whose name had not even registered on the cover. She had read it on the way to a shareholder meeting. She had understood before the elevator opened that if that report circulated inside the company, she would be the executive who had staked $80 million on the wrong corridor. She had not refuted the analysis. She had removed the analyst. Now the board has not asked her to step down. They have asked instead that she lead the pivot, which is a more elegant punishment because it requires her to publicly become the architect of the decision she had spent 14 months refusing to make. She accepts. She instructs her strategy team to identify candidate transshipment facilities along the new corridor. 12 sites are vetted. The ranking is delivered to her desk on a Tuesday afternoon in a cream-colored folder. She opens. It reads the top line and does not turn the page. Keller Freight Hub. Owner Bennett Hayes. The strategy director is standing in front of her desk, waiting for instructions. "This site lacks the necessary capacity," she says. "I want you to prioritize the next 3 options in the top 5. Bring me the comparison by Friday." The strategy director does not press for clarification. He takes the folder and leaves the office. He does, however, send a small assessment team to Keller anyway, because procurement compliance requires a site visit before any candidate can be formally removed from a list. The team arrives at Keller on a Thursday morning. 3 engineers and a procurement analyst. They walk the property for 3 hours. Bennett answers every question they ask: the load ratings, the rail spur clearances, the temperature control plans for the cold storage bays he has not yet built. He does not oversell. He does not perform. He treats them as he would treat any client with the steady, slightly distant attention of a man who has already decided that his work will speak before he does. The team leader is a young engineer in a Navy windbreaker, with the Vantage logo embroidered on the chest. At the end of the visit, he shakes Bennett's hand at the gate. "We'll be in touch within 2 weeks. 2 weeks pass. No call. 4 weeks. 6. Bennett does not call them. He does not write a follow-up email. He continues to do the work he had been doing before they arrived, which is the only work he knows how to do. But the industry is small, and people talk, and within a month, Bennett knows that Vantage has begun negotiating with a smaller facility 80 miles to the south, a site with worse rail access, worse highway adjacency, and an annual operating cost roughly $2.7 million higher than what Keller could provide. He sits with that number for a full evening on the trailer steps, watching the last light leave the yard. Then he goes back inside, opens his laptop, and starts to write. The document is 18 pages. It is not about Keller. It is about the decision to bypass Keller. It compares costs across a 5-year horizon. It compares timelines. It compares distance to the new federal interchange. It doesn't contain his name. It doesn't contain a biography. It contains numbers, citations, and 3 clean charts. When he is finished, he prints it on the small office printer that has come with the trailer, slides it into a manila envelope, and addresses it by hand to Margaret Cole in care of the Vantage corporate mailroom. Margaret Cole has sat on the Vantage board for 13 years. She has watched 4 chief executives come through the corner office. She is known within a small and reliable circle for 2 habits. She does not sit down to lunch with people who flatter her, and she does not finish reading documents that overstate their findings. The envelope has no return address. Clipped to the outside is a single index card with a single line of typed text. This document is worth reading before the next strategic review. Margaret receives it on a Wednesday morning. She reads it through once at her desk. She reads it through a second time more slowly, with a pen in her hand. Then she places it in the locked drawer of her desk and does not mention it to anyone. Bennett does not know whether the envelope has been opened. He has no way of knowing. He goes back to walking the drainage line. A week later, the smear arrives. It does not arrive in any single place. It rolls in like fog across 3 different industry publications on the same Tuesday morning, all citing internal sources who claim that Keller Freight Hub has failed an infrastructure safety inspection and that the owner has a history of misrepresenting operational credentials. None of it is true. There has been no failed inspection. There are no misrepresented credentials. The publications do not call him for comment because the people who plant stories of this kind know which publications to plant them in. Within 7 days, both of his short-term tenants are gone. The produce hauler sends a single-line email. The fabricator simply does not sign the renewal. His monthly cash flow drops by about 60% in a single week. That evening, Owen is drawing in the corner of the trailer office. He has gotten used to coming to the yard after school. He has a small folding chair, a box of markers, and a section of the desk that is by mutual unspoken agreement his. He looks up. "Dad, you okay?" Bennett is sitting on the other side of the desk, looking at a piece of paper he has not actually been reading. "I'm thinking." Owen accepts this with a small tilt of the head. He has heard this answer before. He understands what it means. It is the answer his father gives when he does not want to lie and does not want to tell the truth. And Owen at 7 has already learned to accept it as a kind of weather. He returns to his drawing. Bennett watches the sun fall behind the western fence. He does not break anything. He does not call anyone in anger. He sits at the desk until the trailer is dark, and then he stands up, wipes the surface of the desk with the side of his hand, lifts Owen onto his shoulders, and carries him out to the truck. The drive home is quiet. The yard behind them is also quiet. The lights along the eastern fence are still on the way. Bennett has left them every night for 16 months because he has decided that no matter what else happens, The lights at Keller will not be the thing that goes out first. The next morning, Bennett calls Thomas Reed. Thomas is an attorney he had worked with once, briefly on a vendor dispute during his Vantage years. A man with a quiet voice and a habit of asking exactly one question, more than the conversation seemed to require. They have not spoken in 3 years. Thomas answers on the second ring as though no time has passed at all. "I don't want to sue anyone," Bennett says. "I want to know where it came from." "Tell me what you have," Bennett tells him. The 3 publications, the identical phrasing, the 2 tenants who left within the same week, the fact that no inspector has ever set foot on the property in any official capacity because there has been no failed inspection to fail. "Give me 48 hours. It takes Thomas 40. He calls back on a Thursday evening. Bennett is in the trailer, sleeves rolled up with a stack of supplier invoices and a half-eaten sandwich on the corner of the desk. "The placements went through a media vendor in Chicago," Thomas says. "The vendor was paid out of an authorized account. The authorization code traces to executive-level access advantage, digital signature attached. There is no ambiguity. The signature is hers." Bennett sets the sandwich down. "You have grounds for a defamation action," Thomas continues. "A clean one. Damages could run into 7 figures by the time we finish discovery." "How long would it take?" 3 years, give or take. Probably more. "And in 3 years? In 3 years you'd win on paper. And lose Keller in practice." "Yes." Bennett looks at the wall of the trailer. There is a framed photograph there, slightly crooked Owen at 5, holding a small plastic dump truck, grinning at the camera with 2 missing teeth. "That's not the move." "What's the move?" "The board meeting." Thomas does not argue. He has learned in the 3 days he has been back inside this case that Bennett is not a man who needs to be talked into the harder option. "Then I'll get you what you need to bring." What Thomas sends 2 days later is a tidy package. The timeline of the smear plotted against the dates of the executive authorization. The receipts from the media vendor, a copy of the digital signature with the metadata visible. A short, clean memorandum explaining how each piece connects to the next. Bennett reads through it once at the kitchen table after Owen has gone to bed. Then he prints 2 copies. One he keeps in a manila folder in the trailer safe. The other he places in a plain white envelope and addresses by hand to Margaret Cole. This time, the envelope has a return address. Inside, clipped to the front page, there is a single sheet of paper with 1 sentence on it, written in Bennett's small, even handwriting. "I am not asking for justice. I am asking you to look at the data." Margaret receives it on a Tuesday morning, the same way she had received the first one. She opens it at her desk. She reads each page. Then she calls the board secretary and asks for an emergency strategic session with 2 items on the agenda. The first item is the Northwest Corridor facility selection. The second item is described in the formal calendar invitation as associated legal exposure. Bennett is invited to present. The invitation comes through Thomas on a Friday in the form of a single line of text. "They want you in the room next Wednesday. 20 minutes. You'll be introduced as a candidate vendor with relevant data." He reads it twice and goes to find Owen, who is on the apartment balcony drawing something that involves, as far as Bennett can tell, a large number of helicopters. "Buddy, I have a meeting next week." "Okay. Important one. I'm going to wear the suit." Owen looks up from the helicopters. "The blue one." "It's the only one I have." "It's good." The morning of the meeting, Bennett puts on the suit in front of the small bathroom mirror. The jacket is 2 years old. The shirt is new. He has not worn a tie in almost 3 years. He ties it twice before it sits straight. When he comes out into the kitchen, Owen is already at the table in his school clothes eating cereal. The boy looks up, considers his father with the same patient seriousness he brings to everything, and gives his verdict. "You look good, Dad." "Thanks, buddy." Owen returns to the cereal, satisfied with his own assessment. Bennett drives Owen to school, parks at the curb, watches him walk through the front gate, and only then does he turn the truck east toward the airport. The Vantage boardroom is on the 32nd floor. Bennett has never been on the 32nd floor. In 11 years at the company, he had reached the 28th once for an awards luncheon. The carpet up here is thicker. The light is wider. The receptionist asks him to wait in a small anteroom with a view of the river and brings him a glass of water on a coaster he is afraid to put down on the wrong surface. He does not drink the water. He sets it on the coaster and waits. When the boardroom door opens, the woman who calls him in is perhaps 50, in a gray suit, with the unhurried voice of someone who has been doing this job longer than most of the people in the room. He follows her through the doorway and into the long, quiet space he has imagined 100 times without ever expecting to enter. 7 directors are seated around a polished walnut table. Adrienne Voss is in the 8th chair, her own portfolio open in front of her, and a pen resting across the top page. He recognizes Margaret Cole at the far end, in a navy blazer, with her hands folded on a closed leather portfolio. Adrienne does not look up when he enters. He walks to the seat indicated for him and sits down. He does not stand to present. He opens his laptop, plugs it into the cable that is waiting for him, and waits for the screen at the front of the room to wake up. Margaret nods. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for the time." He begins with the corridor, not with himself, not with the smear, not with anything that could be mistaken for grievance. He begins with the federal infrastructure projections, the same ones he had built his 35-page report around almost 2 years earlier, and walks the room through them as cleanly as he had walked them in his own head on the night he had first found Keller. Rail, highway, interchange, timeline, public funding, approved schedule. He moves to the candidate facilities. He puts the comparison on the screen. He does not editorialize. He shows the rail spur clearances at each site, the proximity to the new interchange, the projected annual operating cost across a 5-year horizon. The gap between Keller and the facility Vantage is currently negotiating with is $2.7 million per year. He hears one of the directors, a man on the right side of the table, draw in a small breath through his nose. He continues. Adrienne speaks for the first time 8 minutes in. "Your timeline assumes the rail spurs are at full capacity. They aren't. The eastern run is rated at 2/3 load." It was. It was rebedded 11 months ago. The new rating is in the 3rd appendix of the document in front of you. Page 41. She turns to page 41 without looking down at the binder. "And the cold storage bays you reference are not yet built. They are scheduled. The pharmaceutical client letter of intent is in Appendix 4. The build-out is a 16-week project. We have site readiness for ground break within 30 days. Your safety inspection record. There has been no failed safety inspection. The state file is also in Appendix 4. A copy of every inspection at the facility under my ownership is included. They are clean." Adrienne does not ask a 4th question. Bennett moves to the final slide. "This is not part of my facility recommendation," he says. "But it is part of why I am in this room. I want to be clear about why I am showing it." He puts the timeline of the smear campaign on the screen. The publication dates, the vendor invoices, the authorization codes, the digital signature. I am not asking the board to issue a finding about any individual. I am asking the board to evaluate whether the decision to remove Keller from consideration was made on the basis of capacity, as stated, or on the basis of something else. If it was made on capacity, I will leave this room and not contact any of you again. If it was not, I would ask that the decision be revisited. The silence in the room is not theatrical. It is the silence of a group of people doing arithmetic at the same time. Margaret looks down the table. "Adrienne, is there anything you want to clarify?" Adrienne lifts her chin. "The board does not run this company. The board selects who runs this company, and the board reviews that selection when there is evidence of financial and legal exposure." For the first time since Bennett entered the room, Adrienne looks at him directly. The look is not angry. It is the look of a person who has just realized with a cold and final clarity that the room she is sitting in is no longer the room she walked into. She closes her portfolio. She stands. She gathers her pen and her phone, and without addressing anyone, walks to the door and out of it. The door does not slam. She closes it gently behind her, the kind of closing a person does when whatever happens next is no longer their concern. Margaret turns back to Bennett. "Mr. Hayes, thank you. We will be in touch through Mr. Reed." He nods. He unplugs his laptop. He gathers his papers. He walks out of the room without looking at anyone except Margaret, to whom he gives a small, polite nod. The flight back to Spokane lands at 4 in the afternoon. Bennett picks Owen up from after-school care at 4:40. They stop at a drive-thru for chicken sandwiches on the way home. Owen eats his in the truck with great seriousness, occasionally pausing to inspect a pickle. "How was the meeting?" "Dad, it was fine, buddy." "Did they like the suit?" "They didn't say, but I think it was okay." "It was good," Owen says again with the firm authority of the only person in the truck whose opinion on the matter he has decided is the relevant one. Adrienne Voss is placed on administrative leave that same afternoon. The internal memo is brief. A week later, she resigns for personal reasons. There is no press release. The trade publications run a single line on a Tuesday morning. Adrienne Voss steps down as CEO of Vantage Supply Company, effective immediately. The board does not award the Northwest contract to Keller. Bennett has expected this. The relationship has become too complicated for any board to step into cleanly. They settle on a mid-sized facility further west at a higher cost than Keller would have offered, but at a lower legal risk than Keller now represents to them. What the board cannot prevent, however, is the second-order effect of its own deliberations. The names of the candidate facilities have been circulated. The comparative numbers have moved through the small, well-connected circle of people who decide where freight goes. Within 3 weeks of the meeting, Bennett receives a call from Apex Distribution, a large independent logistics group operating out of the West Coast, requesting a site visit. The Apex team arrives on a Thursday. 4 people. They walk the property for 4 hours. They ask harder questions than the Vantage team had asked, and Bennett answers each of them with the same flat, steady accuracy he had used in the boardroom. A week later, a letter of intent arrives. A 3-year regional anchor contract with 2 optional extensions. The numbers are real. In the same 3 weeks, 4 other logistics companies make contact. 2 of them are firms that had rejected Bennett's resume nearly 2 years earlier. He returns each call the day it comes in. He does not bring up the past. He talks about Keller, about capacity, about timelines, the steady, factual cadence of a man describing a house he has built with his own hands. One of the calls comes from an unfamiliar number on a Friday afternoon. It is Reggie Marston, the operations manager, who had texted him the warning 2 years before. Reggie is at a new firm, now smaller, and they are looking for a Northwest hub. He does not apologize for the text. Bennett does not ask him to. They talk for 10 minutes about volumes and dock schedules, and at the end of the call, Reggie says quietly, "Glad you didn't sit out the season." Bennett tells him to send the volumes through, and they will look at the numbers. Thomas, in parallel, sends formal correction requests to each of the publications that had run the smear. Within 2 weeks, all of them have printed retractions. The retractions appear on the same kinds of pages where the original stories had appeared, which is to say small ones, but they appear. A trade reporter calls Bennett one afternoon as he is locking up the trailer. "Mr. Hayes, I'm working on a piece on the Voss resignation. I'd like a comment." "I'm running a freight yard," Bennett says. "That's my whole story. That's all you want to say." That's all there is to say. He hangs up. He goes home. Owen has drawn another map and wants to show him where the helicopters are landing. 6 months pass. The Apex contract has been operational for half a year. The cold storage bays have been built and certified. A second client, smaller but steady, has signed for monthly throughput. Bennett has hired 3 more people including a yard manager who lets him for the first time in 2 years leave the property before dark on a regular basis. His office has a real window now. It looks out across the yard toward the western fence, and the rail spurs beyond it. In the corner of the office is a smaller desk with a box of markers and a stack of paper. It is Owen's desk. He uses it on weekends and on school holidays. Somewhere in the last year, he has decided through some private logic of his own that maps are the most serious thing a person can draw. And so most of what comes out of his desk now is maps. It is a Tuesday morning during winter break. Owen is at his desk. He's taller than he was when they signed the papers in the strip mall office, taller than he was when he set down a shoebox in an empty bedroom, his school year, now well into the 3rd grade. Bennett is at the larger desk by the window. Owen looks up. "Dad, are we still poor?" Bennett sets down his pen. He gets up, walks across the office, and sits on the small chair across from his son. "Why are you asking? Because you don't eat sandwiches in here at night anymore." The laugh that comes out of Bennett is the first real one in a long time. It surprises him as much as it surprises Owen, who looks up with mild interest, the way he might look up at an unusual bird. "No, buddy, we're okay." "So we're rich. We're okay." Owen turns this over in his head and gives a small, satisfied nod. "Okay." He returns to the map. Bennett gets up, walks to the window, and looks out across the yard. A line of Apex trucks is pulling out through the front gate, heading west by northwest, in the same direction the federal corridor will one day run the corridor he had first seen, in the dim light of a kitchen table on a night when his savings would have lasted 5 months and his son had been asleep in the next room. The last truck clears the gate. Bennett stands there for another minute. Then he turns back to his desk and continues working. Owen does not look up. The two of them work side by side in the quiet office, the winter sun falling across the floor between them and outside on the yard he had bought when no one else wanted it. The lights along the eastern fence are still on the way they have been every night since the work began.